universe. Wrapping up with a networking session where you will meet like-minded digital-savvy professionals. This will be a free masterclass, but with limited seats available, so don't miss out. Book your ticket now.
Amazing people with great technology.
Hi, my name is Mario Jr. and I am the CEO of AP Portugal. Since 1998, AP Portugal has built a national and international network with more than 145 partners in the most diverse areas of the communication and audiovisual industry. As a tech language solutions, ISO 17100 and ISO 18587 certified company, specialized in all variants of Portuguese language, we have been providing support to our partners and to the members of associations such as ELIA, ALC, and ATC in all their localization projects. If you are head of a company and wish to join the AP Portugal universe, talk to us or schedule a meeting with the real Mario. Trust me, he is much more cheerful.
AP Portugal Partnership
Hi, I'm the synthetic version of Mario Jr., CEO of AP Portugal Tech Language Solutions, and I'm thrilled to tell you that the Locdoc Masterclass returns for its second edition. This year it will be all about media localization. This is an event powered by a team of highly qualified consultants and experts for the entire localization industry, regardless of whether you are an LSP, an LSC, an MLV, or a freelancer. In this masterclass you will learn how machine translation can transform traditional language services, with the support of AI technologies, and the expert knowledge of Plain X, a 4-in-1 video adaptation platform and its collaboration with Dutch Vel. Throughout this experience, you will discover that small and medium-sized organizations can easily adapt their traditional language services towards true digital transformation for themselves and their customers. Wrapping up with a networking session where you will meet like-minded digital-savvy professionals. This will be a free masterclass, but with limited seats available, so don't miss out. Book your ticket now.
Amazing people with great technology.
Hi, my name is Mario Jr. and I am the CEO of AP Portugal. Since 1998, AP Portugal has built a national and international network with more than 145 partners in the most diverse areas of the communication and audiovisual industry. As a tech language solutions, ISO 17100 and ISO 18587 certified company, specialized in all variants of Portuguese language, we have been providing support to our partners and to the members of associations such as ELIA, ALC, and ATC in all their localization projects. If you are head of a company and wish to join the AP Portugal universe, talk to us or schedule a meeting with the real Mario. Trust me, he is much more cheerful.
AP Portugal Partnership Amazing people with great technology.
Welcome, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you, and welcome, every single one of you. Welcome to Locdoc 2022. I am thrilled to be here with all of you today. I am sure we are all excited to learn more about media localization. My name is Mario from AP Portugal Tech Language Solutions. I want to thank everyone for your participation, and a special thanks to our speakers. We are all very excited. For the second edition of Locdoc 2022, we had a spectacular attendance, with more than 250 participants registered. Something that fills us with pride. In this edition we will talk about media localization, with the participation of Carlos, CEO of Privaram, and founder of Plain X, Peggy van der Kreeft, Innovation Project Manager at Dutch Vel, Mirko Lorenz, Innovation Manager at Dutch Vel, the Executive Consultant Scott Rose, and Constantine Dranch as our beloved moderator. This Locdoc Media Localization Masterclass is an event powered by AP Portugal Tech Language Solutions. We are a company that has always worked in cooperation and partnership with hundreds of LSPs, MLVs in the localization industry, and there is one thing we all know. Growth comes from sharing and learning together. That's why at this special time of the year, Locdoc is always looking for new technologies and new challenges. If you have a brilliant idea, a technology or solution that you want to share with our community, we encourage you to apply for the next edition, Locdoc 2023. As always, we count on the presence of moderator Konstantin Dranch, journalist and researcher in the localization industry since 2007, and thanks to his good mood, critical sense and moderation skills, he will give us a moment that we believe will be unique. Once again, thank you all very much. We hope you have an excellent masterclass, and don't forget that at the end of the event, there will be a networking period via the Zoom Expo function of the Zoom Events platform, where in each booth, you will be able to interact and network with both the speakers and the participants who followed the event until the end. We also encourage you to visit the AP Portugal booth for those who want to establish a new partnership with us, and also to visit the Plain X booth so that you can have access to free trial solutions of Plain X to test and experiment this media localization tool in your day-to-day life. Finally, as is tradition in Locdoc, we will raffle a bottle of Portuguese wine to the winner of the quiz. The lucky winner will receive a bottle of port wine. So good luck to you. I'm sure you will all leave this conference feeling inspired and ready to make a difference. So let's get to it. Konstantin, my dear friend, the floor is all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Synthetic Mario. Is the real Mario online as well? Hey, Mario.
I am. Hi, Konstantin.
Hey, I would just say for you that you've undergone the dental surgery. Was it today?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. So I'll be doing the talking today, and I see that the chat is already having a lot of fun looking at your synthetic version. How many times? Probably like 6 or 7 times all over. It's a very experimental beginning of this webinar today. Yes. Anyway, hello and welcome to Locdoc edition 2.0. Mario, would you like to say a few words of welcome, since your synthetic version has already illuminated everything which is going to happen today? Perhaps maybe just a couple of sentences from the real Mario.
Just to welcome everyone once again, and I apologize for this few minutes of synthetic content, but like Konstantin said, I had a surgery yesterday, so we needed to have a backup plan if I was not able to talk properly. So very happy to be here with you all. Just to let you know that there are hundreds and hundreds of participants in this event, over 40 countries. So I'm very excited about the day. So I just wish you to have a lot of fun and lots of sharing, and I believe it will be a wonderful moment of learning. And thank you for being here once again. And Konstantin, you can.
All right, I'll take it from here. It's a little bit of a new environment. It's the first time I'm taking part in the webinar in Zoom events. Is it the first Zoom event for you too? Let me know in the chat. Before we start with the main dish today, which is the story from Deutsche Welle, the whole team is here. They developed an interesting platform using lots of AI APIs to enable AI subtitling, AI dubbing, I don't know, maybe AI audio description, and other processes. We will begin maybe with something fun and to grill you up on the overall state of media localization technology. And let's maybe start with the quiz. As Synthetic Mario has promised you a bottle of port wine, are you ready to be the person who receives it? So the rules are very, very simple. I will ask you 3 questions, 3 Trivial Pursuit questions. The first person to answer in the chat correctly scores a point, and the bottle will go to the person who has the most points. Now, if there is a tie, the person will be selected randomly. We're not going to have a match to the death. So are you ready for a short warm-up and a raffle? Bonjour de France. Excellent. I'm not seeing any yeses. Yay! At least the first yes in the chat. Excellent. Okay, so my first question to you to warm up and to get in the mood for media localization is the following. I think everyone will answer correctly, but let's see. Name the Korean TV series that has accelerated the demand for English dubbing services around the world? Excellent. We have a few answers. Very good. That was easy. Squid Game. All right. So the second question would be a little bit more difficult, and it requires in-depth knowledge of the dubbing industry. I'm sure not many people will be able to answer correctly. Which voice actor is best known as the Italian Tom Cruise? Right? Which voice actor is best known as the Italian Tom Cruise? I'm sure the pundits are looking frantically online. It's not easy to find. I checked myself because I really wanted that bottle. No idea. So I'll give it 30 seconds, and if nobody answers after 30 seconds, we'll move on to the third question. Even Italians do not know this question. This is the question which comes from Scott. Scott, you can see that you've done a very good job at devising this question. No one can answer. Yay! We have the answer. Well done. This one goes to Manuela Simonetti. The correct answer is Roberto Chevalier. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Well done, Manuela. You're one step closer to this delicious bottle of port wine. Okay, and the last question, it's a little bit of a fun question for the end of this icebreaker. Let's see if you can answer. The question comes from Jota, who is also present today. So Jota, you can try to answer, but we will not count your vote. Which fruit reminds you of dubbing into European languages? Which fruit reminds you of dubbing into main European languages? Pineapple. I don't know why pineapple. Peach. No. Not pineapple, not peach. Come on. Avocado. No. Figs. Yes. Nicolas Montaigne was the person who answered correctly. Figs stands for French, Italian, German, and Spanish. And these are the main European languages to dub into. Well, thank you very much. There you have it, the icebreaker. And I hope you enjoyed. Now our support team will see who answered the first and has the most points, and in the end announce the winner. And you will need to provide your physical address to receive that magnificent bottle. Porto, where Mario's company is based, is a magical city. I've visited this year, and I think I'm going to visit many times again. It's a place where Harry Potter plots are made. You have 2 bridges from Gustave Eiffel, maybe 1. Anyway, so I think I'm going to go there a few more times, and I loved it there. Now I will do a little bit of a more serious overview, as usual with Konstantin Dranch. You have a little bit of figures and a general bird's eye view of the video localization technology. Here goes the presentation. Right. So, video localization technology is not new. It has been around for years and years. Subtitling and dubbing in the past decades, people have been working on open source, freeware software, commercial software, professional software, all kinds of software. In the last few years, there's been a rise of cloud-based tools for video localizations, video localization, just like for text translation, cloud-based tools appeared around the 2013, 2014. Now is the wave where most, if not all, video localization has moved into the cloud. And I've done some research in this area. I'll present you with a little bit of an overview. So there are 3 classes of this software: consumer, business, and professional, which aim at different audiences. Obviously, consumer are the products that are looking at subtitling and dubbing for podcast makers, for YouTube channels, for people who are just making maybe explainer videos. In marketing, they don't have many professional features. They're not well suited for film, TV series dubbing. They could be used, but not with great success. Business tools, they aim at not individual creators, but at people in marketing, in content, and video creation at small studios that have a person responsible for subtitling and dubbing. They have many more professional features. They usually use speech recognition. Now synthetic voice is coming in there. They have many QA settings, but not too much. It's still easy to learn relatively, and a person can look at the tool and quickly understand what's going on. And finally, the professional and studio tools are those tools that are used by subtitling and dubbing studios. They have the most professional controls for quality checking, for breaking the subtitles into the correct formats, for different customers. There are many style guides that are there, and the resulting production should adhere to these norms. They also have some degree of protection because, as Scott pointed out in a question which did not make it to the raffle, one of the biggest security breaches in subtitling and dubbing is spoilers, right? So a person working on subtitling can easily find out before it's time what is the season's finale for the Game of Thrones, for Rings of Power, whatever it is, the biggest TV series of today. And so to prevent this, to prevent unauthorized downloads, there's usually some degree of protection. I'll walk you through a few screenshots of these tools because, of course, we'll have a detailed presentation of Plain X today, just to give you an idea of what is on the market. This one is a editor from Una, one of the popular companies used by technologies used by video localization or subtitling and dubbing LSPs. You can see that you have the source, the target, the video preview, and some controls to make it more adhering to the style guide, right? So you can see it could connect to machine translation here and to speech recognition to automate the work of a subtitler. Dubbing is not yet enabled here, but in some other systems you have dubbing as well. This is another popular tool. This one is targeting the business audiences. It's called Caption Hub, and there you can see the same idea, right? So the video is uploaded, it goes through speech recognition of your choice, integrated through an API. It creates a rough draft of subtitles, and then you edit it. And of course, instead of spending 5 or 6 hours on creating subtitles and captions and making sure that your time codes are all correct, you only spend a fraction of that time using the software like this. This one is a consumer tool. It's called Capping, and it is a video maker, right? So this is an online tool where you can create your own video. You upload your material, you slice it and dice it, and there is also a function to create subtitles. So where a professional might use a dedicated program for subtitling or dubbing, a creator, a video maker might just use the subtitling functionality inside the video maker capping. The most successful company in this field is Vid.io, which has raised money and built a very popular editor right now. This is a functionality of a system which is targeting LSPs that have an elaborate workflow. So as you can imagine, in a professional environment, subtitles go through first a person who makes them, and then maybe through some second pair of eyes to check them. And this allows you to build a visual workflow. And these visual workflow builders have becoming fast a mainstay of all professional video localization tools that are working with studios and any kind of professional environment. Project management and billing is an important set of functionality for LSPs, and most specialized companies in this area, they have something of their own, or they use functionality built in the third-party system like Una, or here I think it's MediaWen in France. For dubbing, the important features are the ability to record voice with great quality if you want to have a voice actor working remotely. For Disney, Warner Brothers, Hollywood, typically this setting of remote recording is not something that they use. They prefer super professional studios with soundproofing, etc. But for home dubbing, for some titles, if you don't have super high quality requirements, that works. And so here are some of the features from VoiceQ, an Australian company. You can see here in the middle. Is my mouse visible, by the way? Is someone online to tell me if my mouse cursor is visible? So in the center, you can see rhythm band, which is stretching the letters so that the voice actor can read at the appropriate speed, similar to karaoke. In the left corner, you can see that the lines are split character by character, which is called diarization, so that you can only read your lines. If you're an actor and you're speaking for one of the characters, you jump from one of your lines to the next line, and if there are maybe 5 characters speaking, you don't need to wait for every line to pass. You just jump from one to another. A watermark on the video, right? So this prevents unauthorized downloads, screen capture, so that people don't steal the latest episode and carry it home and publish it on the Pirate Bay, unfortunately. And finally, oscillogram in this right-hand side is something that you need to see the strength of the audio, and you can take your pointers from there. Right, so this kind of features help with human dubbing if it's done remotely. Now we're passing on to synthetic dubbing, and synthetic dubbing has appeared a couple of years ago. Now it's becoming a big trend. If I come back to this slide here, you can see that people have put hundreds of millions into AI voices, and AI voices have been looking for an application in various scenarios, from e-learning, voice menus, to voice in video games here, right? So if I come back here, this is an editor which a UK company called Sonantic created to voice video lines in games. And you can see that it doesn't really follow the same structure as the video localization tools before, but it's built for a specific purpose, right? You have a big game, you have maybe 400, 500 characters in there, and each character might have about 50 lines. How many actors do you need to voice it in one language, and how many actors do you need to voice it into 20 languages or even 40 languages, right? It could be an incredible crowd. So instead, for the makers of smaller video games that do not want to spend millions on voice actors, you now have the opportunity or possibility to voice the game with synthetics, if it works for you. Right, so what's important for a synthetic dubbing? Of course, the workbench. Here is an example of a workbench from Italian company Translated that use a more traditional approach to video localization. So they have this speech recognition, the machine translation, and a voice built in. It splits the video into these utterances, and then you can translate each utterance and maybe correct it. The second thing, which is super important for synthetic dubbing, is the ability to change the pronunciation of a specific word or sentence, because the machine is not always right, or sometimes it sounds robotic. So you want to change it. And the big tech providers that make synthetic voices, they developed a common language for changes called SSML, synthetic sound markup language, I think. I might be wrong here a little bit. So it's the same kind of tag which carries over from provider to provider. And so you can make a set of buttons in your workbench which change how the word is pronounced, and where you insert a breath, emphasis, break, and so on. So the support for this language and the ability to change the pronunciation, prosody, is super important. Finally, an important feature is connected with speed. Some people speak faster. In some languages, the words might be longer. So it is important to be able to tie the pronunciation of the word with the video. And people have been experimenting how to deal with it, whether to make the sound go really, really fast, or whether they make the video slower. And in this case, they can kind of reconcile the two of those. The result is not always super cool to see, has not always been super cool to see. but the functionality is there. So where does it leave us, right? There is a big explosion of this technology, both for synthetic subtitles and dubbing, and there is a big market to disrupt and to change, right? So dubbing and voiceovers is approximately 50 million minutes per year, and subtitles global is 5 times the number. And if synthetic dubbing creates like if you dub just 20% of what is subtitled today with synthetics, that doubles the size of the dubbing market, right? Because dubbing is so expensive and you want some inexpensive way to do this. And LSPs and in-house departments both are now actively exploring synthetic dubbing and synthetic subtitling, which is going to have an impact on the subtitling prices and on the dubbing market, what kind of market is going to be there, right? The top production, Hollywood, maybe Netflix, remains high quality actors, but in corporate videos, in e-learning, in YouTube channels, there is a strong case to use synthetic dubbing, which is going, of course, to get more and more ramped up when it's easy to use. So this market will be disrupted. In theatricals and TV series, particularly, synthetic dubbing is also sometimes used, and I think Peggy will cover this in Plain X presentation. Specifically when you need an actor and they are not available, right? Additional dialogue recording, or maybe you would like to use a child actor for several lines and you're not able to get them to due to some maybe countries regulation. In some countries you cannot work with child actors so easily, so maybe you want to capture their voice. You know, the voice of Darth Vader has been licensed, and now you can use it as an API, and the carrier of the voice gets the royalties. So this also can happen to a child voice. It can be frozen in time and the actor will age, but the voice will not, right? So there are many possibilities how to use that, either in these niche scenarios or to cover the complete production. New markets will be created in synthetic video games, synthetic podcasts, Twitch live streams, YouTube channels, audiobooks, you name it. And so the face of media localization industry will be changing with this new advent of technology. But the change will require change management. It's not going to be super easy. And this is one of the topics which we are going to address today. How to convince people to use the technology, and what are the frictions that this combination creates, and how to work with those. With this, I conclude my presentation, and I welcome you to the main dish. I hope you had some fun overview of what's going to happen under the invasion of technology in subtitling and dubbing. And with this, I would like to cede the microphone to Peggy van der Creft, the real practitioner and the innovator in the field, who has been developing this technology for Deutsche Welle, the largest broadcaster in Germany. Is it the largest, Peggy? The largest, number one?
I will leave that to Mirko, and I will actually give the floor to Mirko first.
You will give the floor to Mirko first. Okay.
Introduction, and then I'll take the floor back. Thank you.
Perfect.
Mirko, yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks very much for the nice introduction, Konstantin. Well, we are not the largest. We are the largest among the public broadcasters in the international sphere. Deutsche Welle can be compared quite a bit to BBC International World Service. We're doing it in German and in total of 30 languages, founded after the war as a means of communicating democratic values around the world. And that sets the stage for why we are here with Plain X. Deutsche Welle is, of course, among all the needs of having to change with the paces and towards new technologies. And my colleague Peggy is actually a veteran in this space of HLT, human language technologies. She has seen the platforms from the very early days when they were like promising but not really usable for work until today. And like Konstantin said, we are now witnessing the arrival of these technologies. And today, we want to give you an overview about a platform that has been developed jointly out of a variety of research projects until a level where it was usable by professionals. And last year, until earlier this year, the team of Deutsche Welle and Preberam worked together in order to introduce it to Deutsche Welle. And that is another topic that we want to talk about. And then there will be a third segment where we talk about the future. But first, before making it too theoretical, we want to invite Peggy to give a demo right away of the tool so that you can see it for yourselves. And then we discuss details of development and the future later. Peggy, you want to share?
Thank you very much, Mirko. So yes, I am from Deutsche Welle, working in the same team as Mirko and specializing in human language technology. So this is a really nice toy for us. I will share my screen and I will go to this one. And you should be able to see my Plain X. So let's see how we get into Plain X. First of all, so Plain X is our the platform we have developed and are still improving. The name comes from you want to get all your content in plain English and plain French and plain German and whatever other language we want, and we can also explain it in different languages. So we have a login that is customized. And we use the Microsoft login, which means it's connected to our internal systems, and that makes it highly integrated and a lot easier for us to control.
It's in general capable of single sign-on. It can be adapted to other single sign technologies.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like. It's we're currently in the library. The library is a collection of items. Items here is mostly video items, but we can also do other content, as we will see later on. And we have, I'm going to close this one. And we have different repositories, so we have different workspaces. Just to give you the context, we're in the Deutsche Welle workspace. We also have a special training workspace, and we have a fully automated workspace, which you will hear about later. Now, how do we get, so I said it's a collection of items in the library, and how do we get there? And I'm going to show you how we, one way of getting into it, and this is for us the regular way of getting it into the platform, and this, you have a view now of Open Media, which is our data repository for our editors. And it has, they put all their items in there, and we have a video, for instance, here, and we have a text, because when we have broadcast material, they don't just invent and talk as we do now, but it's really scripted. Therefore, we say if we're looking for subtitles, we want to use the script that is available. 90% of what we do is scripted, therefore we want to use it so we don't have to correct the automated transcription. So if we have a script, we use it, and we have set up a system so that it automatically goes into Plain X. So we have this, we check it, we tell our editors to make sure it is in the correct format. We know it is correct, or we can slightly amend it. For instance, here, the moderation, we just take out because that should not appear as subtitles. Everything else, in principle, can stay. Important as well here is that we see a little X, which means that if I press this button, it's not interactive right now, but if I press this button, then it gets sent, it sends the item into Plain X. Very easy. So let's get into the Plain X. So we saw that this was the item. It's an item on Congo. I go into Plain X, and this is how it came into the platform. I went into that it has the title, as we saw on the other platform, it has the source language, and it has some other metadata. Now I can start building other tasks onto it. And we also see that the transcript, the imported transcript button is activated, which means by default I say if it comes from this source, use the script that is available. Again, to increase the quality and minimize the effort. So we have 4 types of tasks, and that starts with transcription. That's the first phase: translation, subtitling, and voiceover. We can immediately jump to another phase. For instance, we say we want translation. In our case, we don't, because we are a broadcaster working in many languages, 32 languages. So we start from items that are mostly in English. We also translate from German, but usually it is most of the items are from English, and we may translate it into 10 different languages, which means that we want one transcript and one video to be used, or one version of the video to be used by all the departments, because we do check the transcription, that we don't want somebody else to do the same work. We want to avoid duplication of work. Therefore, we tell them do it step by step, so we can then avoid duplication of work, and many departments can use the same transcript. Depends on what your goal is. Somebody else, and I will show that later, may just want to look at the subtitling. Totally possible, but in our case, we say our workflow says we need to do this in different steps in order to avoid different versions. So we're going to do a transcription. Then we have option of different engines. In this case, we have 4 transcription engines, and we put a default. We put a lot of effort in benchmarking the tools to see which one is best for a specific source language or language pair. I can add reviewers here. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to press finish. So now it is doing the translation, the transcription. While we're waiting for that, yes.
Can I add like 2 things?
Definitely.
Yeah. Now I think this approach with different engines in one platform is key to what we're trying to achieve with our research background. We're expecting to see more engines for translation coming up in the future, and this being able to connect a new one is a key element that we think is important.
Yeah, we have opted indeed to have to have the choice of any good tool that is available. So a tool that has added value, we'll gladly add to the platform. It has to be better or faster or less expensive or whatever. It has to have an added value for us to add it to the platform for us and developers to do that. So the transcription here is ready, and I'm gonna play it. So we see the video. We have a preview of the video, and we have the text.
It happened before sunrise, according to residents here in a shanty town outside Kinshasa. An unexpected flash flood, and then the ground gave way, burying homes or causing them to cave in.
The neighbor's wall fell on us while we were sleeping.
Here we see a little yellow bar, and this is metadata that comes from the script. So this is scripted, so in principle we shouldn't worry about the text. It is correct, and therefore, especially for instance for named entities, for names for organizations and people, it is very important that we can rely on this text. We don't need to correct it. We have additional metadata, in this case a speaker. This may be, this is important for us to keep. We don't want it as subtitles, but we want to keep the information, for instance, for later on for synthetic voices. If we want to use it, we know we need a female voice.
Sleeping. The kids pulled me out quickly, but the others died on the spot.
Okay, I'm gonna play it back for a little bit.
The kids pulled me out quickly, but
so here we see, this is what I wanted to show you. the speaker has decided to take "thank God" out. So this is the kind of, we need to scan the document to make sure that we do have the text correct according to what we hear on the video. In this case, the speaker decided to take this out, and the text the audio just starts with "the kids pulled me out." Those are the very small changes that we have to be aware of in case we want to correct it. We may say, okay, we trust the editor and we leave it as is. You have to look at the cost benefit in terms of effort. That is an editorial choice. So the use of the script, in our case, we can use the script. Of course, I'll show you later that we can do without it. But this is very fast to get a proper transcription with, as you see, the subtitle. So then we mark it as done. It's going to ask me, it has a review function, and I'm going to say, no, this is not necessary because I know what it is. It doesn't need a second pair of eyes to see if it really says what's in the video. And I can build as many languages as I want on top of it. So let's say I want German. Again, here, it gives us a number of, in this case, translation engines. I can take another one, but I trust the system to recommend the right one, and I finish it here. Now, the transcription was the one that took the longest. Translation is very fast, and as you will see, subtitling is even faster. So here, I go into translation mode. And I see that on the left, we have the original language, the source language, and on the right, we have the target language. In this case, I selected German. And the left is grayed out because we had said this is done. Nobody's supposed to correct it anymore unless we really see there was a mistake. In principle, we say it was corrected, leave it as it is, and work with the translation. So I look at the translation, I can choose whether I want to play the video or whether I just want to do a text-by-text translation. That's a choice by the editor. We see also that we have editorial notes. Let's say I'm going to make a change, just using capital letters, so we see what that something was changed, and I go through the translation and see what we have to do. Translation needs to be corrected. We do not publish anything with automated translation. Automated transcription may be something else, especially if we use a transcript, a manuscript. All that our transcription has done was add the time codes. And now I can mark it as done, but with the translation, we always use a second pair of eyes. So I'm just going to show you that we can do it. And in this case, I'm just going to send it to myself. I'm going to wear a different hat. And this gives me a chance to show you the boards. The boards are the working areas. So the task, it's a collection of tasks. Library was a collection of items. This is a collection of tasks. And we have 3 levels. Those tasks that were created but weren't started, those that were are in progress, and those that are finished, as we had the transcription at the moment. And we have a collapsed one, which says this is currently being reviewed. And here we see that our Congo item is in review. This is our icon for the review. For us as a public broadcaster, it is very important to have to adhere to the editorial processes that we had before. So it is also, I have a shared board, which is the same thing as a personal board, but at team level, and the review board are items that are sent to me for review. And now I can go in here, and I can go into the review, and I see the correction made by the editor. I can give a comment, and I can say, good to go. And I can make another. I'm just gonna, again, just a simple change so that we see what has been done. So I go through the text, I look at the items that are at the segments, I look at the translation, see if it's correct. Then I can mark it as done, or I can send it back. In principle, we would send it back. And then it says, do you want to send it to that editor? And now it's back into my tasks of doing, because the reviewer has finished it, it goes back to the editor. And as an editor, I see the comments and I see the corrections made by the reviewer. So for us, it was extremely important to have this workflow in there. It's not just about getting a transcription, getting a translation. It is giving support to our editors. And that was a very long process of getting requirements in. How do you want to do it? How do you try to please the different departments? We have 32 languages, many different ways of doing things, although we try to streamline, they still work in different ways. But this was important, otherwise they would not be able to work with it. That's one of the reasons why we work on a platform that we develop. So then I'm going to say, mark is done. And I was going to say, congratulations, you've gone through the entire process for this particular task. And now I can add a task, and I can say I want to subtitling, first of all in English, which is the source language. And I can go in there. And now I have, I need to go, I can see the I can't play it, yeah. So we see the subtitles. My Teams is blocking my screen here. Okay.
Water.
I want to say to the authorities, if they're watching this, we're Congolese. We've lived here for a long time, and now our houses are washed away. Me, for example.
So you see that we have the same text as we had originally in the transcript, but now fully segmented to get it to the proper length of the subtitles, according to our specs. 2 lines, we want it in this particular format, etc. Nothing we have to do, it came immediately. Now we can, of course, do the same for adding a task. We want to subtitling. We want it in German. We have the subtitling in German. And now we have
sunrise, according to residents here in a shanty town outside Kinshasa. An unexpected
time codes are automatically created. Length is automatically created. We can get our different templates, and I'll show you later. So that is, it makes our lives a lot easier, and it allows us to do subtitling, which we did not do before, basically. Then I want to go back to our, so this is basically what we have, yeah, and now we can go to our library card, and we can now need to set it as done. Let's take this one. I need to set it as done. It says you want to review, no, not for the subtitling. I go in here and I go to a library card. And now any task that was set as done is can be exported. So this is what we do At the moment, we can export the subtitling in different formats, just regular text, SRT, VTT, one that we requested because of our systems, EVIT, TXT, segmented text, which is the text with the time codes. We may also just give the time codes in the text to a speaker who can then read it. That is the basic workflow. Now you may say, well, what if I don't have this system and I don't have a script? Can I do it directly from another video? Yes, you can. And I'm going to show you a platform which is the same, but the next version that we're going to roll out in a couple of days. We're going to say test. That's fine, and it is in German. And now it guides us, it tells us, do you want a transcription or a translation, subtitling on voiceover? And I'm going to say, I want a subtitling, and it's going to ask me which one. I say, I want an English subtitle, and I'm going to create it. And then it tells me, okay, I'm doing this task and that task. So basically, this is to show you that if you have a script, you can use it. But if you don't have a script, of course, for interviews, we don't have a script. So then we do a full transcription. We can upload a file. We can use a URL as we did here, different possibilities. If we have an automated system, as we can send, as I showed before, we can do that. It caters for the different methods and situations that we have in our company, especially if we work with so many departments, so many languages. We have to see how we can do that. At the moment, it finished processing, which means it ingested the video, and it is doing the transcription, and then we will get the translation and the subtitling. In the meantime, I can show you.
Peggy,
yes.
Sorry for interrupting. There was one question from the audience, whether we have a preferred vendor for transcription. I believe the answer is that we don't.
I'll say that it really depends on the language.
Yeah.
Because let's end on the type of text. We have tried this, for instance, for Russian, and then we say Google was better for scientific texts, and Azure was better for some other type of text, and we take into account the cost. Some transcription tools are more expensive, some are good but are very slow. Some are good, say, for a certain type of text. So we look at all of them, and that's why we recommend it for certain types, but we put this, make all of this info available to our editors. So you can't say one engine is better. It depends on, and for translation, definitely for different language pairs. English to Swahili can be a very different provider from English to German.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this flexibility is one of the key aspects what we're trying to achieve, like flexibility that we can add the system to an existing repository like Open Media in our case. That is one, because a lot of organizations already have something, and then not being stuck with just one option and having to switch in, instead going with the flow. Into a future where we expect quite a few of these engines becoming very, very powerful.
And it changes. And that's also why we do, so we have new engines and we have to try them out. And some of them are quite close together, and then we may switch from one to the other if we see that they have had an update and we have better results. So we really want to have the option.
And one thing that we can add is that there are a few licensed engines like AmperScript or Speechmatics or so, which are great and sometimes in use as a client. So we try to provide a way that they can keep using this platform, but we, in all honesty, we need to figure out certain licensing issues then, like what Speechmatics finally says, whether they want it to be available to.
Yeah. So here I'm quickly showing you how we set our defaults. So we have the choice, and then we say, for instance, let's say we want Google, and we ask our editors. This is why we involve our native speakers. We say, okay, we use the Pakistan version, and then from now on, the default will be Google, but you can always override that. So let's quickly have a look at what the item did. So this was the item which we just uploaded, and we have our, it did the transcription. So now we want to go to the task code, and it has a subtitling in English. I can play it.
Die Prozesse in der Sonne kopieren und aus Kernfusion endlos umweltfreundliche Energie gewinnen. Das wäre der Traum. Seit Jahrzehnten arbeiten Forscher daran.
I don't know who, if you speak German, but sometimes this is a full transcription, which means you have to check the names, you have to check the punctuation. In this case, it should be there should be a period here, and there's a new sentence. So this is what we have to check if we have a full transcription. And then it corrected here, and we're fine. And so, but here in this case, you can just ignore all the previous steps and just listen to the audio and correct it here. That's a fast way if you have only one, you have a source language, you have one target language, and you're only dealing with subtitling. So we cater for different use cases, and we have some use case internal videos which only need to be subtitled in English, and they come from German. That is the perfect workflow. They don't need to go through the different steps. That's a waste of time. You have to look at what your goal is. This I think shows what we can do. What I would like to do is, if I can go up, quickly show you that we have a template. For instance, here, if we go right here, do we have that? Okay, here we see that it covers the inserts. We don't like that. So we can, per segment, we can say, here, we can say this one needs to have a high position. So this is the standard, for us, the standard Deutsche Welle format, but we can say, okay, I want it on top so that it doesn't cover this, or I want it in the middle. I can say, no, I want it higher. I use different fonts also to show that we can use different ones. This is a bit too big, but we can adapt it. We can create our templates and we can adapt it, but it is important that we can play around with it and move it in a position that is suitable. And I think that is most of what I wanted to show you on the subtitling, translation, transcription. If are there any questions now, and I could show you the voiceover if there is any interest in this.
Let's see the voiceover, but while you're preparing the voiceover, it will, I guess, take a minute. Maybe Mirko, you could start on the story of Plain X. How did it come about, and what was the process at Deutsche Welle when internalizing this technology? One thing I know from the market is that very few buy-side organizations go into technology, right? Most rely on providers to do the subtitling, dubbing, voiceovers for them. And where in text, localization teams, of course, have gone into great lengths to onboard translation management systems. In video, this practically never happened. Only maybe Netflix and who else? Maybe Disney Plus looking at having these platforms developed internally. And so Deutsche Welle is one of the very few rare, unique organizations in the world that went into great lengths to build this. How did it happen? What is the story behind it?
Yeah, I can talk about it while Peggy is preparing it. Well, we have a special group which Peggy and I are part of, is the Deutsche Welle Innovation Team. And we are financing ourselves for the last 15 years out of competing in EU research projects. And I'm not sure about all of you, whether you're familiar with this research world. It means that we're looking at technologies 3 to 5, maybe sometimes 6 years before they become viable for the market and usable. And it's not an easy business, I can tell, because normally you're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because when you have something, your organization doesn't want it at the time. When you have something, when you don't have something, your organization needs something. So always when you arrive, it might be that the last relaunch and the new system has been introduced half a year ago. So having a good product market and timing fit is really, really a challenge. So a few years ago, and I think that is a difference that we make. We shifted our focus from wanting to innovate for Deutsche Welle to shifting to innovating for journalists. Yeah, that there's a sensible logic about that today, in today's world. Like 20 years ago, you would have your legacy systems and you would only do it for Deutsche Welle, WDR, CNN, or whatever. Today, there is a wide world of which is reachable via the internet. So we could find the first 500, the first 2,000 people who really say, I need this solution, and I don't care about whether others need that. And that's our way of working. So that is very important. In this particular case, we succeeded with implementing it to Deutsche Welle, but that was a challenge in itself, which we should talk about, what to expect when you want to adapt a tool like that. But that's one of the key aspects of making Plain X. That was our motivation. And then on top of that, both Carlos from Privaram and Peggy are really experts in this world. I'm only here because I'm an entrepreneur trying to move things from nobody uses it to thousands of people using it, and I did that with another tool in the past.
We'll discuss this in a second, but this idea of entrepreneurship where you're inside a large organization and instead of using its own finance, you could secure the funding from the European Union and to build it for the organization. This is pretty amazing. Peggy, are we ready with the voiceover?
Yes, I'll do a quick demo here. So as you may have seen, I created the voiceover, very similar to creating a subtitling. A subtitle, you just say, now I want to voice over.
The processes in the sun and generating endless environmentally friendly energy from nuclear fusion. That would be the dream researchers.
This has not been corrected, so it doesn't do it correctly there. You can play around with periods and commas as well. What I'm going to show you here is we have the same item, and I did some changes to that. I did some manipulations, show you how we do this. For instance, here, because you need a little bit of time to work on it. So we have the same item. So we have selected a voice, a default voice, but then we may have another one. We may say, okay, in this case, let's see here, I wanted Jenny, because we may have an interview. We may need 2 or 3 voices. So let's look at this one.
Nuclear researchers at the National Ignition Facility in California have now succeeded in doing so.
They are talking about a historic breakthrough.
So here you see it's a different voice. So I can just do that here, and I can choose any other voice that we have. There are many, especially for English. Trick is, again, we have to look at all of them, listen to all of them, and determine with the editors which ones they want to use. We have other ways of doing it, changing it. For instance, here, I can insert a break. That's what I did here. Or we can change the page. So we can, in this case, what I did was I changed a phoneme. I said, okay, didn't pronounce the word nuclei very correctly, so I can insert a phoneme. I can show you how we do that. we have the difference. We have a pronunciation. I can do an alias. I can say, use a different word for this, or I can change the intonation. In this case, I change the phoneme and I can replace it with the phonetic spelling. Of course, most people don't know how to do that. So there are tools. You can just say it here. You say.
How much work does it take to convert a 3-minute robot voice into a human sounding voice?
Come again?
So let's say you have a 3-minute video and you have it spoken in a robot voice. How much work would it take the sound engineer to make it human sounding?
It depends on how robotic it is. Of course, the first thing is to choose the best voice. And what we are also doing within the Selma is we're actually training our own voices. We're using the voices of our editors and using those as voices. So the first thing is you want to get it as good as possible for things that you want to use. And then you look at certain words. It wouldn't make sense to have a whole video which doesn't sound very well to then change every word. But if you have specific words, specific names that are wrongly spoken, then you can, where's my, okay, something went wrong in this tool. That's not part of ours. But in any case, so what I wanted to show is you just type the word and it comes back with a phonetic spelling and you can use that. Different ways of changing it. In principle, let's say that we would spend a little bit more than on subtitling, maybe about the same time as we would for a transcription, we would for a voice, but it really depends on how good it is. We are currently using it for scientific texts, scientific videos, where we say it works with technology, so let's show how we can use the synthetic voice. We also use it for internal videos, let's say instruction videos. As was mentioned earlier, there it doesn't really matter that much if it is not perfect. You have to look at, are we publishing it or is it internal use?
So we don't yet hear of robots from the primetime news or anything. We do not have anything on main television facing the public which is spoken by a robot, not yet.
Not with Deutsche Welle. We do it for specific magazines, for specific, but we have, when you're talking about that, is it live? No, certainly not for live. For video on demand, we have news. We don't do it for news yet, but that's the idea that we're going to do.
We can, right? So
yes, definitely. And because we're still rolling this thing out, and we decided to start with scientific text because these are technology-oriented audiences. And in the meantime, we're improving we're selecting the voices. But the idea is that because many cultures don't want the subtitles, they really want it spoken, and they'd rather have a synthetic voice spoken than a written text or subtitles. And that's
also for maybe people who cannot read or listen.
So it is going to be it's a process that's still going on, but yes, this is the future. People are not as adverse to synthetic voice as one would think. I think this concludes my demo for now. And I'm going to stop sharing if there are no specific questions.
No, there are many questions, Peggy, so I'm going to hit with some of the questions. Before I do, you said that people are not adverse to synthetic voice anymore. No. How many years do you think it will take before we'll hear synthetic voices on prime time? At least in niche scenarios, not for 100% of the content.
I am expecting 3 to 5 years still.
So mid-term perspective.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I will now pose a question to the audience. The first question comes from Mirel, and she wants to know how is machine translation working in the mix, especially if you're working with Chinese, Japanese, maybe Russian? Do you use different machine translation engines? I think you already answered that, but it will be good.
Yes, depending on the type of content. For instance, for Russian, we did that. Brazilian as well. For some editorial texts, use a different engine from scientific texts.
Excellent. The second question is from Nicolas Montaigne. Is Deutsche Welle still working with human linguists now that this technology is available?
Yes, we say we will not publish anything that is translated by a machine and not edited. That is for translation, yes. For subtitling, you have to make a distinction between source language subtitling and target language. Source language we should be able to do that fully automatically.
Let me follow up on this question. Do you recruit engineers who work with a system like Plain X to?
No, that's why we try to make it user-friendly.
Right, so it's going to be
engineers
journalists.
Are at Preberam, and no, this is for users.
Right, so no new jobs will be created to work with a system like that.
Well, we do a lot more subtitling. We have now, for instance, yes, and we will have the ideas to streamline all of it if we do this fully for all languages. Our management said we have to subtitle all our content, whereas traditionally we do not subtitle. We're very little, but for accessibility, the rule is we will have to subtitle all content on demand, audio, video, on demand, live. So yes, we will have production assistants making sure that the videos are in Plain X, they're properly there, and then you have editors who focus on the translation. It will also allow them to do more creative work. They want to write, not only translate. This makes it faster, and we can do more content. So yes, it does create jobs, but it will also kind of force them to adapt their job.
Yeah.
I see. This also, I think, answers the question from Sarah about the future roles for graduates. So if they want to prepare to work with you in the future, it's not a sound engineer role that they should be going for, but the subtitler, the linguist.
Depends on their tool, on their skills. Let's put it that way. But
yeah, the young people need to acquire skills. So what do they learn in the university to work with you?
Well, they learn to work with the technology. Another one is, for instance, the speech. If you do the voice synthesis, that's other skills. And you can have speakers who will indeed learn, collaborate to teach the tools as well.
Perfect. Only two questions remain. And this is all about QA. So what kind of QA process is it for translators, editors, reviewers? Is there a quality measurement with scorecards? Do you have style guides and best practices? Is there something to share? Maybe a quick story on the QA.
Well, we use the defaults in order to guide them to get the best quality. That's the first step. Secondly, we do a lot of benchmarking to make sure that we get the best tools. And then we guide them. We say, okay, well, for some languages, it is 90% correct transcription. For smaller languages such as Urdu or Bengali, it is not the case. You have to do more. And for translation, definitely, it is up to the editors. We give them a tool to assist them with this, but the quality, especially for translation, is their responsibility.
Excellent. Well, I think we nailed most of the questions here. There's the one last that we'll take, and then Mirko and Carlos will proceed to your part. The question is from Axibel Amelia Pena. Are there any courses or classes available to learn to use the software? I know what you're going to answer, but...
I'm going to leave this to Carlos and Mirko.
That was unexpected. Okay. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. An amazing demo, and I see many positive comments in the chat. People loved what you have shown us today, and I think it opened many perspectives. This is how broadcasters should work.
Thank you.
Kudos.
I agree.
All right, Mirko, Carlos, let's switch to you then and discuss the story of making this amazing technology work with all the talent and all the people.
Yeah, we don't want to bore everyone with a long PowerPoint. We have like an Apple keynote style with the main facts. So primarily as a way of discussing, and we have two more parts. I will talk like 10, 15 minutes about our learnings, a little bit why and how, which we already covered, and then our learnings in this process quite openly, because we are among colleagues, that's our feeling. And then Carlos will provide an overview about what we're planning for the future and how we cope with challenges. And I will share my screen to go into the presentation. Doesn't have tons of...
That was the story of hardship and trial and error, bringing this through the resistance, making it work.
It was not so much about resistance, actually. It was about, wait, so you should see my screen now.
Yeah, it's good.
So it was not so much about resistance, but about attention to detail. Like Pribaram was bombarded with requests by Deutsche Welle. What has to be in there? That has to be done. We cannot use it like that, and so on. It was like getting a hole into a very thick piece of wood, like a slow process of putting it into potential use. So this is what I wanted to talk about very briefly. We were just touching that, like what is the role of technology and what is the role of the human? And I believe that the answer I would give to a teacher of young people, it will be all about quality. No objections to how we started today, but if it's an artificial voice is repeated several times, people get very quickly annoyed. On the other side, if we have a voice actor who says good morning in a good way, we can melt away because we're touched as humans. So the subtleties of quality in this process of content adaptation will and should matter. And that is what a lot of pure technologies don't see, that at the end of the day, we're producing information for human consumption, and it should be as good as humanly possible. And that's where technology can help on the other side, because we are taking away quite tedious tasks. And what I should say about what was the pain getting started, our intention was basically, we can use it for the short media items that are produced for the day, but have no high production value. Now we find with some of the teams inside Deutsche Welle who are using it for documentaries, because if you have to transcribe, do a transcription of 30 minutes or so, this tool can actually speed it up. And it depends a little bit on the preferences of the team, whether they like this more or like it better. And that's another point that I wanted to make. This is really what we have been working on as a group, of finding a good balance between the humans and the technology. Technology gets better, it's easier to implement, but taking the human entirely away is something where we feel you end up in negative territory, because you're producing media content that is indistinguishable from other purely technical content. You need the quality of the content, the quality of how it is presented, and the quality of voice and picture and text in that. I had recently talked with a large German news organization, and that is something else. They were a paper magazine coming out weekly. Now, by now, they are as well quite heavy producers of video content week by week. And they said, we really need to ensure that the quality is high. We have a lot of teachers among our audience. If there are typos in there, we get tons of letters. People really don't like it. Quality is super important. Yeah, and another thing that we should point out, this is a multi-year development. It came out of several 1 to 3 year projects where we were involving in research and looking at early adaptations of this thing. Another question that we wanted to kind of point out, why should somebody, a larger organization like Deutsche Welle with roughly 3,000 people in 2 locations in Germany, in Berlin and in Bonn, Cologne, Bonn, why did we choose to work with an SME? And I'm very sure that Peggy will say the same, and all my colleagues from the Deutsche Welle innovation team will say the same. It's much better. It's much more productive, because by working with Priberan, we were talking to people that understand the market and the problem because they have language technology knowledge. But on top of that, they provided us with a team of JavaScript developers that were dedicatedly working on this over, Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, last 2.5 years, like full time, people not looking elsewhere. And that is essential, because otherwise, as I said, there were so many small tasks to adapt and so many assumptions to have been built. I give an example. We had Deutsche Welle demanded that there would be several roles. A lot of content management systems have roles. As you can see, we came to the assumption one role could be of the reviewer, but journalists under time pressure really hate it if the tool has no way out. Like when you have to find a reviewer and otherwise you cannot publish. It will take 1 week until this is kind of switched off or disabled, or people will override it and find a way. And so we had more flexibility there. And another thing that happens when you introduce roles is that the complexity of your software is rising mightily, because every item, every state, every video translation can be viewed in 7 different roles. So the internal complexity, and that kills a lot of early stage projects. And yeah, we managed through, but there, as Konstantin said, there was a time of hardship and trouble, and like 3-4 months longer than anticipated, because there were so many things on the list and tests to be made and so on. So that basically concludes, provided that I don't get questions or that are more detailed. There was one about the availability of recorded voices, like a main anchor being synthesized. That is an ongoing trend right now that we see in several organizations, and we could add a voice like that, but at Deutsche Welle we don't have one like that. So that is like the final overview of what we're trying to achieve here. We are very, very open to feedback and criticism and suggestions and ideas. And Konstantin, if there are questions, I'm willing to answer. Otherwise, I would.
Let me give you a couple of questions from my side, and maybe the audience will complement. So, okay. In a nutshell, if you say #1 problem, bringing this from the drawing board into the newsroom, what was that? #1 problem?
A lot of engines, but not wanting to get stuck with just one.
So integrating technology, basically, right? Developers solving technical problems, not human problems.
Providing flexibility, because the alternative would be that we would go for one tool and then wait for that tool to evolve further.
Any problems that you saw with different stakeholders? Who were your partners in crime? Who were your blockers in this project?
There was, because this performed very well, we had open doors at Deutsche Welle. It's not that, like when we presented it to top management loved it under the assumption that it would save a lot of money.
So this was your premise. We will bring the European money and will save us a lot of money internally.
And kick out a lot of people, yes.
But you didn't kick out anyone.
No, and it's not this way. The problem that we have in Europe from our point of view is that when we're discussing the future, we're usually using tools from the US, which is fine. The Americans are very good at innovation. But we should compete on that level, and I think that is a good example what this project shows. If you dedicate with 2 partners, one from Portugal, one from Germany, you can create something that is interesting, at least interesting. Don't want to claim more. And something about, more or less people. This will free, hopefully, people from boring tasks, like having to translate, transcribe by hand with several tools from Word to Premiere and that kind of stuff, which is a reality for some of the people in the industry. And then you can focus on the quality, like really have the time to have the synthetic voice just perfect.
Awesome. And maybe the last question from me, unless someone from the audience contributes to the management part. So you mentioned that it took 2.5 years to develop. which was the production time. What was the life cycle of making this from a dream, from an idea, into a real project? What was the preceding part? How long did it take to package it together, put the teams at work, and then maybe to implement? So what came before and after the development?
Well, my quick answer is that once we saw an initial interface, we had the motivation to build it into a real functionality. And that was something that came from, Carlos, tell me, I think that was something that Pribaram introduced, like, why don't we organize it like this, right?
Yeah, it started with the Google PNI project, also with Deutsche Welle. Just make a proof of concept, and then we went into the product. Yeah.
Excellent. I think this is an excellent segue for you, Carlos, to start your part.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Mario and IP Portugal for inviting us to be here today. It's very nice to be talking with all these people that know a lot more of this business that we are getting into right now. And after what Mirko already told and what Peggy showed about the Plain X, I will just focus on where we are now, and perhaps it also answers some of Konstantin's questions, where we are now and what we want to do in the next years or months at least. This tool is now rolling out in Deutsche Welle. You were just asking how was the cycle there, and we are finally rolling out in Deutsche Welle. Just remembering they are publishing content in 32 languages, so it is quite a challenge. There was someone I saw in question answering or in the chat asking about these more difficult languages. I just know that last week there was someone from Deutsche Welle in Bangladesh doing a training session on Plain X in Bangla, the language. So these problems with different Mirko, we are now seeing your computer. Okay. So we are now rolling out in Deutsche Welle. I think this was the milestone we were waiting for some months now. Just to complement what Mirko said on the process, as you saw, it was quite a big effort working with Deutsche Welle and according to their requirements, which were very, very strict in terms of the workflows, the engines, the roles of the people, all these things. It's a big organization, like you see. But when we starting to say, okay, I think it's now the time to show it outside of Deutsche Welle. Let's push it into other users, other targets, and see if it still works for them. And of course, in the last months, the Plain X evolved a lot by looking into other markets, into other things. For instance, that we were very focused on short media items, like 2, 3, 5 minutes, but then even Deutsche Welle had documentaries for 1 hour or something. So we had to make some changes to this. Then we went into the subtitling industry, and that's how we met Mario. When we started to talk with experts on this area, we saw that, okay, there are these, and there was also a question on style guides somewhere in the chat just before. There are style guides for subtitling for Netflix, for BBC, and so this is the kind of things that we also have to put into the system so that it is much more robust, and it will validate that the subtitles that are produced automatically or which are edited by a human still comply with those guidelines. So this is the kind of things that we are putting into the product, also making it more easy to use, to have some shortcuts to make those very, very frequent tasks like and people doing subtitling nowadays, pushing one word. I think Peggy just showed that in one of the demos. You have to push one word back or to the next segment and just have something instead of only selecting and putting it forward. So these kind of things are the things that we are now getting it more professional when we put and we add testers from different areas using Plain X. That's the feedback that we got. there's also something which was already said, which is by developing this tool, and I think that was also one of the reasons why Deutsche Welle preferred to do it this way instead of trying to find something on the market. They could guarantee, and this is one of the strengths of Plain X also, is the possibility that you have of integrating it with other systems, existing systems. Peggy showed that they can, a journalist there can just push one of the videos from their system into Plain X to get it translated or subtitled and get it back. Another thing where we are using Plain X, it's in the Frankfurt airport. Okay, all the screens there which are showing Deutsche Welle content have the content subtitled automatically by Plain X, and that is completely automated. The videos are pushed into Plain X, they are subtitled, and they get back and they are pushed into the Fraport TVs to show it there. Okay, so these are two very good examples of what can be done here. Finally, when we started looking into the market and showing it to different people, for instance, we got into talking with the Portuguese news agency, Lusa, and they said, well, it seems very nice. We do mainly audio because we have a lot of interviews, we have to transcribe them, sometimes translate them. Can we use it there? And we saw in the first time they used it there, they were amazed with the quality, but then the quality of the transcription and even the translation, but then they said, but it's too complicated. That was the thing that they said, and we are here, we are discussing this openly with you. And then when we started looking at it and we saw other users using it, we said, yes, we have all these roles and reviewers and everything, which is very important in an organization like Deutsche Welle, but perhaps we can hide this from users that just want, a single journalist that just wants to have the transcript from an interview very quickly. And so that's the kind of things that made us evolve the product to something which is now much more goal-oriented. You just say, like you saw with Peggy, I have this video, I want to have a subtitling in English, and it's done. You don't have to do anything more. You are not going to have reviews or anything. This is a single guide exercise. And so this is how it is evolving. Of course, we now have a lot of ideas in terms of the future. We just got the new Whisper engines, which came up this week. We are already integrating them. So this flexibility of having different engines, trying them, they are also evolving, getting better and better. Machine translation, voiceover, transcription. So the way that we develop the Plain X platform enables us to very quickly follow the market and just plug in the best engine for each language or each pair of languages in case of translation.
When are you integrating ChatGPT so that the journalist can say, Plain X, subtitle me these 10 videos?
We'll have to look at a use case for that for now.
and write the article for me.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the way we are evolving. I think that's important to see how agile we are now with the platform in terms of being able to integrate different services here. We have already several there for different languages. There was a question about QA on these services. One of the things we are also thinking about for the future is, as soon as you have, and you already have a lot of content from Deutsche Welle, and if you look at, okay, the transcription engine got this, and then there was this edits from a human, then you can start to at least rate, whenever I use this engine, I got much more errors than when I use this one for a certain language, so, or a certain type of content. So this is something that we have already discussed with Deutsche Welle, which is how to use the platform to make the benchmark between languages and engines, and always provide, or at least suggest, the best engine for each language or pair of language to the editor, so that they don't have to know this. Okay, and that would be my thing for today.
Thank you very much, Carlos. A very good overview. All right, so we've completed the Plain X part, and brilliantly done. Well done. Thank you. And now we are going to ask Scott Rose to come on stage. Plain X is not the only technology on the market. And Scott, I'll give you a short introduction. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Scott is one of the big experts, the world's top experts in subtitling and dubbing technology. He has been running development of this technology at Ayuno for many, many years, and SDI before that. And if I remember correctly, that's a huge effort, right? It's millions of dollars every year going into tech, and more than 100 people usually developing different technologies. So, Scott, now that you're independent and you're a little bit at liberty to speak, and people can benefit from your expertise, not just at Ayuno, but in different organizations around the world, we're very interested in your view. So what do we have here? How does that compare to other technologies developed around the world? What is happening in media localization technology that we should be aware of? How does that compare? What we've seen today?
Great. Well, thanks for the introduction, Konstantin, and kudos to Peggy, Mirko, the whole team on Plain X for this. And I had the advantage as well of seeing a preview with Mirko and looking at it, because I was really curious how this was played out. I think it was an interesting point about build or buy. This is always a big question when you start any kind of project and certainly in a corporate environment, and the ability to go out and look at what's in the marketplace. But I would also say that when you're trying to solve a problem, and it's a specific problem that you have, right? And the way you set this up was really nice to say, that this, I do believe in building, from within. And I believe that's where the success is when you are trying to solve something very specific, especially with the grand scope of this. And you're running the entire project as well as doing all the creation, across both subtitling and dubbing. And so I think from that perspective, I was very, very impressed with it. The other thing I would say is that what's critical to these tools, particularly when you're incorporating machine learning, AI, just automation in general, is you have to have a very tight integration between that end user who's operating the tool in their creation and the AI itself, or the technology itself. And I was happy to see that it's very tightly integrated. You make a change here, you get a result. And I think this is critical for the end user's experience, but also just for the efficiency, of the process. And I think that the other side is getting some analytics out of that, because as you're starting to create and you're starting to see, okay, where things are going wrong or where things are going right, to be able to give that feedback loop. The other thing is, for me, was the aggregation of the world's technologies, the leading players into the tool, the ability for the tool to know what content is appropriate, what language is appropriate for what kind of technology, and vice versa. I think these are keys to success in building these kinds of applications. The other key to me is the ability to have and we talk a little bit about this, about change management later, but I think a bottom-up, top-down approach is really, really important, mostly the bottom-up. You've got to be tied to your end users. You've got to be, as you said, when you just made a comment, Carlos, about deploying into, for someone who wants something just a simple task to do, and they said it was too complicated. This is exactly the kind of feedback you always want, right? You got to solve for one thing, but there's always going to be different use cases, and it's much better to build on a foundation of being additive in that regard, as opposed to trying to boil the ocean all at once. So that was my first, my impression. that was my introduction. That's my impressions of it, and it was nice to see it again. And Peggy, thank you for the the real detailed workflow. It doesn't always, you don't always get an opportunity to do that. So to really see it, to go through every single step like you did, it's always risky, but it worked well. So congratulations on that. So
maybe we could start smaller. Who is building media localization technology around the world? Today we've seen how broadcasters are automating their process. Who else is an actor in building media localization technology?
So you're saying outside of either in large corporations or large service providers like and TransPerfect and others, right? I mean, there's obviously there's the proprietary work that's being done. I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I think there are other companies maybe not mentioned, such as Veritone, which is a very interesting company that is building these technologies. I think, in terms of, it was interesting, point of view around, we know that Netflix have built all kinds of tools internally, a lot around sort of managing process, but QA, subtitling tools. To be honest with you, I'm not seeing content owners or studios building creation tools necessarily. I see them building a lot of quality control tools on the back end to make sure when this product, these files are delivered back into their platforms, they're going through a QA process, they're going through a validation process. A lot of chaos happens from the point of ingest, going through localization, all that normalization of data, and then finally getting back into the platforms for that ingest of the deliverables, the creation of the deliverables. And this is where it gets messy. And so that validation is really important. They expect localization people to do their jobs and produce quality work. I don't know if this answers your question. I'm just not seeing it at that level. I would imagine that, and you would think Amazon in particular would, given their breadth and depth of technology, and in particular with AWS and the incredible things that they do there would be more as well. And there may be, but I'm not necessarily seeing it. I'm not that privy to everything they've got in the skunk works. But I think they're leaving this job to the experts. And that's been my impression. And I do think it's very difficult. It's not just the tools. You have to manage the people. And that's the harder piece. Managing thousands of people in a workforce, or even as contractors or translators, that's not an easy job. Managing all those individual contracts, especially if you're doing and dubbing, you've got assignment of rights, and that's a lot of work, and that is something that's best left to the vendors.
So you see this technology more coming from the vendor side, and the development of Plain X on Deutsche Welle side is a unique thing in the world. Practically no one else has accomplished something similar.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not that I really say. I'm trying to pinpoint something, a company that's built this. Maybe of others. I think Red Bee was doing some work for a while for BBC. I know there's quite a bit of that. And then they branched out, right? And they spun off. And I think that was one kind of example you've had. But I'm not saying, certainly not to this level. What this is end to end, right? This isn't just putting some tools in place to do validations or kicking off. I see the companies much more concerned about getting their assets together, getting the work materials organized, getting their metadata sorted out, and so that first part of ingest and data normalization is correct, because if you don't get it right in the front end, it goes quite awry, through the process, multiplied by 50. So I think that's where I'm seeing more of the development is really getting the organization right, getting the assets right, having visibility and transparency over the process. They'd rather than build themselves, they'd rather be in your tool, right? They'd rather be in your system, observing what's going on, or at least being able to have some contribution, so that they don't feel like they've just thrown it over the ocean and hoping for the best. They want transparency. They want KPIs. They want to know what's going on in the process. And so that would be another. It'd be interesting to see, if this were going out for a different, like a SaaS product, how you would be able to invite people into the process as well.
Awesome. Anything that is standing out from the crowd that you've noticed recently? So we've seen Plain X, something different, but in media localization technology, something that we should be aware of. Who is moving the needle?
I think there's a couple of companies, and I'm not going to. And really, it's really. I would say that today NMT is a tool in everybody's toolbox. Pretty much. For neural machine translation, for text and time text, and we have companies who are every day competing in this world, and we saw it in your drop down menu, right, for choices. But I would say that a field that is interesting, or certainly an arena, is content analysis. And content analysis is, it's image recognition, it's event identification, it's context awareness.
I see Carlos is smiling because he has a lot to say about content.
And I think where this comes into play is a lot about compliance and censorship and being able to build those versions, which is still about localization, right? It's still a process. It's still a deliverable at the end of the day. You have to have a version that's appropriate for the country, and that's always been a difficult arena to operate in, and going through and doing all that analysis to really understand where are the issues in any content, both on screen and text. So a company that jumps out is Spherix, with Teresa Phillips, and they've applied AI to this process, and they're leaders in this. Very interesting.
How do you say Spherix?
Spherix. Spherix. Yeah. Yeah, interesting company. And then I'll go out on a limb a little bit here, but another company that I have followed is Alluvio AI. I think you guys may be familiar with the content fabric. This is blockchain smart contracts related to operating to, along with IMF and component-based assets, is really designed to eliminate in many ways, the certainly a man content management, but also not in cloud at all, right? So this is a company, Michelle Munson, who had developed Aspera, which she sold to IBM and then created the content fabric. And it's really interesting because I think we'll be dealing with blockchain more and more. I think we'll be dealing with smart contracts more and more. And how does it affect localization? Well, who knows? It could be, how do you identify ownership and IP, across translations, across audio, IP and voice. There's many things that this could impact. So
this is getting super technical even for me. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'll open this for questions from the floor. And while the questions are being typed, let me bring you more to the human topic, which will probably be very interesting for everyone in the audience with us. Right, so Mirko said that there were no blockers, and people were actually saying, hey, bring us those features faster, work faster, do it. We'll love it. So he had no resistance from the people adopting the technology, which is a unique case.
Yeah,
I'm sure this is not always the case, Scott. Do you think you can describe some scenarios when there is resistance? I know that on a vendor side, you don't only give technology, you also it comes with some strings attached for the people using it. How do you navigate this difficult thing and working with large numbers of people adopting media localization technology?
Well, I've said before, you've got to understand your end user. If you're trying to do everything top down and say, I'm going to build this wonderful thing and invite everybody in, you haven't involved your end user, made them a part of the process. It's a level of respect is really what it is, because at the end of the day, if you don't have that, you're going to have a tough battle, right? When you get out there, especially this isn't, if we're developing technology that is designed to help a colleague or someone that is part of your organization that's contributing to the work product, you got to build something that's going to work for them, right? And that's different from creating a product that that's just a consumer product in many ways, and I think and because they're a part of the process. But I think you also have to understand that in the world of localization in particular, not every country is the same, clearly not, right? You learn this in the subtitling world. I see in the tool, I see that much English and that much German, right? In terms of the number of characters per line, these kind of things you have to adapt to. There's a question about Japanese. That's a whole different topic. But I think you have to be able to understand your end user, and you have to be able to, in terms of developing the technology, deploying it, work with them directly, and know and build your framework for flexibility, because you're going to have to adopt to the culture, and particularly around localization, the culture of the country. I've seen this where we've had successes, we've had failures. I've learned a lot more from failures, and I've probably had a lot more failures because of having to relearn this same concept, over and over. Sometimes you get top-down pressure to get something done quick and get it out there and get the savings in. But at the end of the day, you'll be having to work with that end user and understanding why they have resistance. And in many ways, if you build your champions early, right, in this process, country by country, you have someone who is advocating for that product, or advocating for the tool that may change the way they do things. But you have to point that end user and that success and say, that end user themselves as a testimonial to say, I've shaved out this amount of time in my effort, right? I've been able to have more throughput and actually do more projects because this tool is more efficient, so I'm making more money.
If I put it in maybe this can come from me, since I'm an independent guy with no strings attached. Ayuno was one of the first media localization companies to adopt machine translation and subtitling. And I think 2 years back, or something like that, the idea was to bring MT, make subtitling faster, and pay a little less per minute to linguists to get some efficiencies from MT. On the buy side, like Plain X, is not yet happening, but the expectation, therefore, I guess that was sold to the management, is that there will be savings. And when Ayuno put that proposition into practice, there was a lot of resistance from subtitlers, and the association started to boycott. There was the media story. So I think back in the day it didn't work. But what do you think today? LSPs working with subtitles and adding machine translation and technology in the mix. Can they get savings? Is it possible to convince the subtitlers to take advantage, get more per day but less per minute?
Yeah, I can't speak, for Ayuno's experience.
Yes,
directly.
yes. So that's why I structured the question about LSPs today.
Yeah, so I think in general, the general observation, this is over time, really is, I do believe that we're talking about post-editing, right? Mainly about a post-edit job, as opposed to a pure creation job. And I think there's people who are very adapted to creation, and that's what they know, and that's what they're going to do. And I think there's people who are understanding QC, and understanding that role of that post-edit role, and have been able, in that regard, as I said before, to actually be able to do more work, And so I do think that there's a math there that works, where if you're able to run through all these different projects, even if you're paid, it's seemingly paid less, per project, it's really the amount of work that you can do in a shorter period of time, or the same period of time. If you can do more volume in the same period of time, then I do think that I've seen examples where the translators make more money. translators being the post editors make more money on these. I also think that not everything fits in the same box, and not all content is the same, obviously, right? And you have to be very careful about what you run through the tool set, right?
Right. So if I summarize this, I can say that time heals that, and in the future, savings will become available, right? So this is
I think it's going to get better, and incrementally better. I think it has to get to a balance, right? It has to, otherwise you're not going to. We have a lack of translators. We have a lack of QCers in the world. We don't have an abundance of them. So we have to be able to create a system that's equitable.
Yeah. All right. I think we're on the stroke of time. Mirko, you have some remarks, and then we'll have closing remarks. And after that, there'll be a networking session. So everyone present will be able to meet each other and speak in breakout rooms. So don't leave just yet. If you want to meet the others, network, and have an exchange without the moderator and in a peer-to-peer scenario, this is what is coming up next. Mirko, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I briefly wanted to share an observation or experience we made presenting Plain X to other public broadcasters in Germany. And they are regional organized, they are well equipped with, they have funding. And I said, well, I want to show it to you. Actually, I don't expect you to use it because you don't have translation or localization needs. And they said, that's not entirely true. Basically, we would need to provide services to the quite large Turkish community in Turkish language, somehow, subtitles or voiceover. We have a Syrian refugee community that we're not serving at all. And more recently, we have a Ukrainian refugee and we're not serving them. So I agree with Scott. It's not all the same. We have more content on more channels and a lot of work that humans shouldn't do, but we have a quest for quality by a good attention to detail and informing people about what's going on. And I think that would be, there can be positive situations in the future using this technology.
Perfect. Any final questions, remarks? Shall we summarize? There's a few questions about failures. I think we mostly covered that. What was the biggest failure in implementing media localization technology? Do you want to go ahead maybe and give us a few words about this, or I think we addressed it?
I think we addressed it. I think there's one arena that's tough, and that is tools for script translation in the TV and feature space. I think this is a very difficult arena because of culturally how, particularly for scripting for dubbing, right? How each territory, each region has so unique ways in working and how they feed into their recording rooms. I think this has been an area that has been difficult to get to, and still exists today as a difficulty. But we'll have to get there at some point. We have to do things in tool sets and systems and not in Word docs.
Thank you, Scott. All right, I will wrap it up. So today we learned about the advances in media localization technology. We've seen a terrific presentation by Plain X team, who were able to package the project, envision it, get funding from the European Union for it, build it, and make it available for Deutsche Welle and now for everyone else, which is great. We heard that this is not the only exciting development, and there are many things to look at, from QC tools to blockchain in media localization. I'm really excited, Scott, to follow up on this and find out more. And now we have the time to meet each other. Those of you who would like to stay on and enrich your network by meeting fellow professionals, you have the opportunity to do so. I see that the technical team is asking me to announce the winner of the raffle, right? So who gets the fated delicious bottle of wine from Porto directly? And that lucky winner is Morten and Ria. So if you are with us, please say hooray in the chat because you're getting the prize. And don't forget to send your there here. Don't forget to send your address to the organizers. With this, I thank you for your attention. The official part is done. We can give a virtual round of applause in the chat to the presenters today. And I will turn it over to the team at AP Portugal to guide us through the process of the networking and how the breakout rooms work. Thank you very much. We've had a lot of fun today and we learned new things. And as usual, it's been Locdoc, becoming a tradition. Good luck with the media localization activities in the remainder of this year and the next one. Ciao.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity here. Thanks, Constantine, as well, and the hosts.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Hi, I'm the synthetic version of Mario Jr., CEO of AP Portugal Tech Language Solutions, and I'm thrilled to tell you that the Locdoc Masterclass returns for its second edition. This year, it will be all about media localization. This is an event powered by a team of highly qualified consultants and experts for the entire localization industry, regardless of whether you are an LSP, an LSC, an MLV, or a freelancer. In this masterclass, you will learn how machine translation can transform traditional language services with the support of AI technologies and the expert knowledge of Plain X, a 4-in-1 video adaptation platform and its collaboration with Dutch Bell. Throughout this experience, you will discover that small and medium-sized organizations can easily adapt their traditional language services towards true digital transformation for themselves and their customers. Wrapping up with a networking session where you will meet like-minded digital-savvy professionals. This will be a free masterclass, but with limited seats available, so don't miss out. Book your ticket now. Hi, I'm the synthetic